Hey there, Yarnpreneurs. Jess here. I got started a few minutes early because I wanted to give Ron a chance to join to make sure all this technology works out. This is the first time I'm doing this with a guest. So we're going to see. Hopefully Ron is getting a notification and he'll be joining us soon. I also want to share this link in the event so that anyone who RSVP to the event can access it. So I'm going to do that real quick. Welcome to behind the scenes of what happens when you first start a live video. All right, let's see. Got our link here. I hope that Ron is able to join. Let's see, what does this do? Okay. All right. I think I got this figured out. Amanda, I'm waving at you. I don't know what that means, but I'm doing it. So this is so different from when I go live on my computer, but I wasn't able to do that and bring a guest on. At least I haven't figured out the technology for that yet. I think it's possible, but I'm trying to figure that out. Okay. All right, so I've shared this in the group. Everyone who RSVP'd should be able to see that now. Okay, cool. All right, I think we're set. I've got some questions in for Ron already. If you have questions for Ron, today our topic is sales. He wrote course 7 for the blueprint in the Yarnpreneur Academy. So I thought it would be awesome if we brought him on for a live. Actually, it was Amanda's idea. All right, let's see. I'm going to bring Ron on. We ready? It says adding. Be good. I think. Good morning, Jessica. Yes, approve. I approve of Ron.
Yay, what? Okay.
Success.
I was trying to do my iPad, but apparently I'm one of those people that don't update stuff. And so it was like, your flash is not working. And I was like, screw you. So, sorry. Need to put on my
technology.
good. I know, right? Like, I had my iPad all set up. I need to clean off my head. Like, everything was all good to go. I've been quilting this morning. So,
Quilting?
Yeah,
nice.
I started quilting a few months ago to relieve stress from knitting. You know, it's ironic that I have a job where everyone are like, oh, hey, I do this to relieve stress. And I'm like, I don't, because it's my job.
Exactly. So then you have to come up with another one, right?
Exactly.
Another hobby.
So then I started quilting. And let me tell you, if you want to find a craft that is so expensive you can barely afford to do it, definitely try quilting, because I've already bought 3 sewing machines. I went from like a regular Singer to a computerized Singer. Now I have an industrial machine, or semi-industrial, and it's ridiculous how much money I spend on everything now. So, but I mean, like, stuff is pretty. I just made my mom this. I'm sure everyone wants to see, but
ooh,
I know. I like the quilting lines on the back. See, that's a great thing about quilting, is like you get all these symmetrical lines, and also you can complete an entire quilt in, a day, as opposed to a crochet Afghan, which takes, 30 years. So,
well, that's why I didn't want to get into quilting, because there's so much math involved, right?
Well, what's great is I don't
want to have to do math.
Yeah, I started out with a designer brain. I found that it's really hard for me to do other things other than crochet, because I always think from a designer's perspective.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly like, oh, hey, I could do this as a job. I should just make this my job. This should be my job. And I should definitely just become a quilt designer, because it's easy, right? And I very quickly learned, like, it is one of the most difficult. Like, I thought crochet design was difficult. It is nothing in comparison to making a quilt block. It is so
Wow.
difficult. Like, their patterns are so intensive. Like, they're like pages long. But it taught me a lot about design and writing patterns for crocheters that I never thought about before, because for so long I've never really how do I put this? I never really read a pattern from a crocheter's perspective,
Right.
right? And
It's hard to shut that part of your brain off, right?
it totally, like, I couldn't do it. Like, there was something about it I couldn't get the hang of. And so I want to say, when I started doing this, I started realizing, like, oh my God, I should really write my patterns a lot better than I have been, because this is ridiculous. And in the end, it made me a better designer and a better writer, because I was able to see things differently. But
So look
that
at
was a
this.
very, like,
Ron comes on and he's talking about quilting and he totally drops knowledge bombs along the way just because he was talking about quilting. I love it. I'm going to take
for,
1 second and welcome everyone that has joined us because I see things happening. This is also why I don't like doing this on my phone because I get distracted. Jessica says hi. Marley says amen to that. I think
right?
she was talking about when you found another hobby to replace your hobby that turned into a job.
I know.
um,
So much. Let me
Jessica
tell
just
you.
started sewing. Connie said hi. Sarah said hi. Amanda's here. Awesome. All right. So it sounds like everybody's kind of found us. I've got plenty of questions, both from the community and some ones that I pulled some tidbits out of the course materials. So
Cool.
for anyone who does not know, Ron wrote this month's course that's in the academy, and the title of the course is Techniques for the Non-Salesperson. Okay, so we're talking about sales, but we're talking about it from a perspective that is approachable and is not at all scary or used car salesman-esque. That is our goal.
Exactly. Yes, yes.
So Ron, real quick, just give us a little bit of a background on um, your business and how your experience in sales and your expertise in sales kind of ties into the success of your business currently.
Um, so I'm one of those people that, like, if you didn't, couldn't tell from the course, I, like, just go all in on everything. And like the quilting, right? I just dive headfirst into literally everything I
Yeah,
do. And I like Selena Baca, who, I love Jess. Like, I love Selena.
we all love
She
Selena.
always, I love her the most because she gives me compliments all the time. And one of the compliments, she's like the best at giving
Oh,
compliments. And
definitely.
one of the things that she told me one time while we were talking with one another, she said, I envy, and I'm probably butchering the way that she said it, but basically what she said was she envies the way that I approach things, that I approach whatever I'm doing full bore. I become an expert in it, and then I just move on to something else, right?
Yeah.
And that's that was how my career started out, and it's not like that anymore. Like, don't do that, you guys. Like, it's not the best way to run a business. It's just not. But when I first started designing, it was 2010, and the market was so very different than it is now. And I don't talk about this a lot. Not many people know this, but I actually started by selling on Etsy. So I sold amigurumi and little blankets made from Karen 1 pound and Banna's Choice yarn. And I sold them. That's what I did. Like, I sold dog beds and dog toys. And I did that for a while, and they got really popular. I had, like, wholesale contracts with different stores in the South, and it was, like, really cool. But I realized I hated every minute of it because I am not a productionist. Like, I don't do production. I hate production. Um, And so I realized, okay, I want to design hats. I don't know what to do. And my journey really started when I was watching a podcast with, oh gosh, I can't remember his name. Johnny Vasquez, I think it was.
Yeah.
So Johnny did a podcast way back in the day with it was called Fiverr Story or something, I
Yeah.
think. And he was interviewing Alex Tinsley, who is a wonderful knitwear designer. I don't think she designs anymore, but at the time she designed these really amazing hats. And she talked about how she started working with these different companies and she just reached out and then she designed stuff with them. And I was like, I could totally do that. And so I just started doing it. I just started working with what I had. I didn't have a lot of money at the time, and I really didn't think that I was a great designer. I was just like, I can put some crochet stitches in a hat. And so I just started crocheting hats, and it did really well. And I've made this explanation really long when you said to be short about it. But in the end, like, it was one of the most amazing kind of, this is where I started and this is where I am now. And it's really cool to think that, like, and I say this with all of the like humbleness that I have in my heart that I'm at the top of the crochet industry. And I really I like saying that because it means the world to me because I've worked really hard. But I didn't get here alone. Like, it came from help, like the help of other people. I mean, really, I credit where I am today with Rebecca Velasquez, who is one of my favorite crochet designers, because if it wasn't for her seeing something that I did and kind of like getting people to look at it, I wouldn't be here. And Marley, um, really, she started my career. Like, Marley gave me a chance when no one else gave me a chance. And for that, I always feel incredibly blessed to know her. And we're friends now, and I get to say that. And that's like the coolest thing. So anyway, that was a really long explanation.
No, this is one of the things I love about you, Ron. You're a total rebel. If I tell you to keep it short, you're just like, screw that. I'm gonna do it.
I was
No.
like, whatever, Jess. I'm going to talk for an hour and a half, and you're going to listen, and that's just how it's going to work.
Oh God. Yeah. No, but I love that because I think it's really important to hear the story behind, especially when people look up to people like you, and I know everyone in the community does. Um,
Oh.
I feel like it's important to kind of hear the origin story, for lack of a better word,
Mm-hmm.
because there are so many people that want to get to where you are. And I think it's important to understand the whole journey and the amount of time and effort and work that goes into actually making that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I always love hearing, you know,
Yeah, good,
backstory.
good, good. Yes,
I will
yes.
never stop you. Um,
Yeah.
so one of the questions I had, and this is, I think, partly one of my kind of perceptions about sales and selling, but I also know that it's kind of a widely held belief, especially among makers, and people who feel very connected to their work. Um, I, what is your explanation for why selling feels icky and why we kind of like the word and the concept kind of makes us like cringe a little bit? Like, why do you think that is?
I think it's that way because we've been conditioned to believe that sales is about receiving a product, and it's only through a person that we can receive it. And the invention of the internet, really, I think, kind of hammered in this belief. Like, we get on Facebook and it's just like ads, 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 and we get on Instagram and it's the same way. And you'll follow makers on Instagram that you're inspired by their products, but you realize like the only thing they're doing is posting listings to their Etsy shop. Like, that's how Twitter used to be. Like, back
Yeah,
in the day, Twitter was literally just FC listing, and that's what people taught at the time. And because social media really wasn't, it was so new, right? Like, none of
yeah,
us knew what it was. And I think that the problem is that the 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 view of salesmanship and making kind of, we feel like they have to be separate. Like, and I feel like there's always this kind of there's always this way of thinking about making, like, we make because we want to make, and we sell because, like, we want to share we're making. And I've never had that view, because the truth is that I have to pay rent and I gotta pay electricity, and this is my full-time job. And if I don't sell, I don't eat. And that's like it sounds like hyperbole, but it's really not. If I don't sell, I don't eat. If that's just the bottom line. And when I stripped away like the safety net that I had at one time, and I just started making full time, I realized, like, oh, okay, it's not about selling, it's about the type of salesman that you are. And in the course, which most of you know, I talk about Joy Mangano like 20 times. Um, Joy Mangano invented the Miracle Mop. She's also invented huggable hangers and the little steamer and all of this. And I love her journey. I love, love, love her journey. And when I went to go film my Craftsy class, this was in 2014. No, it wasn't. 2015 or 16. One of the women there was like, "Oh my God, you should work for QVC." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she was like, "You're such a good salesman. Like, you can sell anything." And it's like, it's because you love it so much. And that's when I realized that passion-driven sales is what really makes a difference. We're passionate about making, we're passionate about doing things. And so you have to take that passion and you have to put it in your sales pitch. And that's why in the course I talk a lot about the why. And like, I am a firm believer that if your why is not the best that it can be, and I don't care about focus groups, I don't care about, anything like that. What I care about is, have you looked inward long enough to know why you're doing this? Because your why isn't just a statement. It's not just your motto. It's a deeply driven kind of definition of who you are as a maker and who you are as a salesman. And you need to use that to sell, because that's where your strength lies. And yeah, I think, like, I've done everything. So like before I started making, I worked for like I sold knives. Like, that was lots of fun. Chopped my finger off. It was so great.
Oh my God.
Where like you have to invest $300 just to get the products, and then it's just about selling. You sell, sell, sell. I've worked in cell phone sales. I've worked at, in retail. Most of my life was spent at retail. I've worked since I was 14, and I saw what every other person was doing wrong, and it angered me to the point that I was like, you know what? I can do this on my own. And my mom was a cosmetologist. She still is. And she owned her own salon for many years. And the one thing I noticed was that the better the connection that she had with people, the more they kept coming back.
Yeah.
And I realized that's not just about a service. That's about products too. The better your product and the more love you put into that product, the more people are going to see it and keep coming back.
I love that. And I think that ties right into our next question. And that is, what is perceived value? So we talk about putting our passion into our work and, sharing our story and making a connection and like getting all of those things across, and not just keeping them inside of you, but sharing them with other people.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we turn that into hard, cold value in the product and share that with the customer?
I think so. We'll start like at the beginning. What is
Yeah.
perceived value?
Yes.
So I'm very, I use that term in the course because I find it inexplicably important to what we do in knitting and crochet. And that's specifically because, let's talk about crochet, because knitting is a whole different monster. And I know the crochet market is so much better. The crochet market very specifically has a lower perceived value for patterns. Now, this is based on market trends. The more people that are offering free patterns, the more people that are offering free YouTube tutorials, or the more the word gets out that, like, well, patterns shouldn't cost this much money. You're not getting anything. I can find that for this much money here. It takes a perceived value and lowers it a little bit. And that's in any industry, right? That's just how it goes. And there's nothing wrong with that. I offer free patterns all the time. I teach online. I do all those kind of things because I think that they're vital to the community. Um, what you have to realize, though, is that the market has to level out at some point. And in order to do that, you need to offer a product if you're selling a pattern. I primarily sell patterns, kind of, not really anymore. I mostly do commission work. But when I sell a pattern, I want it to have charts and I want it to have schematics. I want it to be 8 pages and I want it to be super clear and have step out photos and maybe a video tutorial to go along with it. All of those things kind of go into how people perceive the value of what you're selling, right? So let's talk about candles, because Jess, you know that I love candles. So Yankee Candle sells their candles for about $30 a piece, and I used to work for Yankee Candle, for anyone that doesn't know. And I love their candles. Their perceived value is what they're sold for, right? So they are about $30 a candle. Now you can go to other stores and you can buy candles that are, good enough that maybe are half the price, but excuse me, are they going to sell just as much? Right? Or are they going to smell as good? That's what I meant to say. Are they going to smell as good? Are they going to burn as long? What's the perceived value? Well, they burn for 110 to 125 hours. I still got all of that knowledge in my head. I don't know where it comes from. Is it the
That's
paraffin
fantastic.
wax versus, I know, right? Is it the paraffin wax versus the soy wax? Is it the colors that are in? Is it the essential oils? All of these things go in. And so when you talk about your perceived value, when you talk about what you do, when you share how you work and how you design, like there's so much that goes into it. And I look at different makers and what they're doing, and it's just like they're doing something that no one else is doing, right? And they're making it so good, and they're doing such a great job at it that I see their value. And this can go for free products as well, right? So if you are giving away a product or you're providing a service that's free, the amount of work that you put in it, I see Marley Bird commenting, so I'm gonna gush about Marley real quick. But if you guys all know that Marley, what she does with YouTube is astounding because she puts so much work and so much love and so much drive into every single video, right? And you see that as compared to someone who maybe doesn't do all that kind of stuff. And so you are automatically going to go to her videos because the value is so much more. There's so much more there. So that's what perceived value is in a really long sense of the word. But perceived value will absolutely kind of change how your business is run. I can sell a crochet sweater pattern for $8 where someone else can sell it for $5. And I'll make a good amount of money on the $8 pattern. Why? Because when people look at me, they think, oh, he's doing a great job. And it even goes with commissions. I'm paid by companies to design for them. And I'm paid a lot of money, more than what other people are paid for. I get paid to design a pair of socks, what most people get paid to design a sweater. Why?
Right.
Well, because I'm really good at crocheting socks. So my perceived value is a lot higher, and it's not necessarily perceived because I'm really that good, but I'm teasing. I'm
Oh.
just so good. So yeah, that's what I would say.
I love that. I think that's something that I think people think about it sometimes, but they don't have the vocabulary to express
Hmm.
it. But I also wonder how many people think about how much that affects and how things outside of the actual products that they sell influence their perceived value.
Hmm.
So how much their branding and their messaging and the communication of their why and like all the other things that they do impact the perceived value as a brand. And then when someone goes to make that decision whether or not they want to buy the product, all of those things are running through their head consciously or subconsciously to either hit yes or not.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so next question: what is the biggest tip that you can give people to help them talk about their products better?
Um, so I talk about this a lot in the course, and I think it's probably in my opinion, the biggest thing, everything that we do provides a solution, right? And I really learned that, believe it or not, from watching HSN. So I watch HSN and QVC every single day. It's on in the background all the time. My family hates it because they're like, "Oh my God, you're watching this again," and I'm like, "But it's work, okay?" Um, and the reason I do that is because you begin to hear the markets are similar, right? Like we're marketing to a very similar customer base. Women, primarily women. My market specifically is women that are white and that are 35 to 60 years old. I kind of always sit right in that range. And I've done a lot of market research to figure out they like small projects and, all these kind of things. So I know who I'm selling to. And so I'll watch QVC, I'll watch HSN, and I hear them all the time talk about how this is a solution. So back to Joy Mangano, and I'm probably going to bring her up like 35 times. But she invented the Miracle Mop. And why did we need the Miracle Mop? Well, because up until that time, housewives primarily were wringing out mops with their hands, and it just didn't make that much sense. So she got this great idea for a self-wringing mop. And that's a solution to a very common problem. Now, what we do in knitting and crochet is quite different, or in yarn production, or if you're making project bags or anything like that. What we do is we give people, the directions to create their solution. So one of my, biggest achievements is my book, Step Into Crochet. Now, what did that do? That provided a very clear solution to a problem that crocheters have had for years. How do I create socks that are like knitted socks? And while they're not exactly the same, it provided a solution, and it sells really, really well. I mean, for a year, it sold incredibly solid, right? And the reason that it did, and it hasn't tapered off all that much, is because it provided such a very clear route to solving a problem. And everything we make provides a solution of some sort, whether it's just the cold or someone can't find something that works for them, and they can't find the size, so they want to make something for themselves. Sonia Phillips is the author and designer behind 100 Acts of Sewing. And if you haven't looked up 100 Acts of Sewing, please do. It's amazing. And she creates these patterns that are incredibly simple, but they're incredibly fashionable at the same time. And I have a very big problem. I'm 6'5". I can't find clothes long enough. And so I had a problem, and I saw that as a solution, and I bought the pattern, which was like $17, more than I've probably spent on any pattern before that's not a book. And I've made like 20 other shirts because I love them, and they work, and they fit so well, and I can make them to fit myself. So that was a problem that I had, and I found the solution. So you need to identify the problem that you solve, and then figure out how you can solve that problem, even if it's super small, right? And it can be something as simple as, well, this Tunisian crochet sweater is a perfect beginner project. So if you've never tried Tunisian before, or if you need a first project, this is what you should do. Right there, I've identified a problem. They don't have a pattern yet, and here's the solution. Here's the pattern. And tell them why it's going to solve that problem. Like, explain in detail why. I think one of the biggest problems I see on Ravelry right now are so many people just put up all their pattern information and just let it sit there. They don't talk about it enough. Go on Instagram and look at the biggest crochet bloggers and knitting bloggers out there. What are they doing? They're talking about their product incessantly. Yeah. They're not just shooting pretty pictures of yarn and saying, hey, have a great day, right? What they're doing is they're providing a reminder every single day, like, here, this is what you should do. This is how you're going to do it. Here's another picture of how you can wear it, those kind of things. So
I love that, because I think one of the issues that a lot of people run up against is like, I just don't know what to say. Like, how many times can I talk about the same thing? And I think taking a different angle, you know, like you said, talk about one aspect of it or one feature of it or something like that, and clearly explain how it solves a problem. Um,
Yeah.
for me, there was a long time where I had trouble getting past the idea that all of my customers were just hobbyists and I didn't actually
Mm.
solve a problem. Like they don't have a problem. Like they're just doing this for fun. But that's not
Yeah.
true. You
Mm-mm.
know, all of those people have things, and if you think about it or ask them, or like, you know, I recommend starting a conversation and like actually asking people like, why did you pick up my pattern? You know, what was interesting about it, or, you know, did it help you learn a new type of project or
Yeah.
whatever that thing
And
is.
you don't have to totally, and you don't have to do that like directly. You don't have to say to people, "How did this solve your problem?"
Right.
Right? You
Right.
can get on Instagram and put a picture of something and say, "What's your like?" What I did when I was designing when I was writing Step into Crochet. What's the number one problem that you have with crochet socks?
Yeah.
I wanted to know what their problem was, and I had so many responses that were like, "Well, it doesn't fit around my ankle." Cool. Now I know what I have to do. I have to make a way for these to fit around ankles that are thick, right? I have to figure out how to do this. Let me solve this problem. Because a book, essentially, if you've never written a book, but it's like a collection of problems and solutions. That's really what it is. It it has 20 patterns in it, but it's just a big old thing of problems and solutions. And so, but a pattern is just a microcosm of that. So
I love
figure out
that.
what it does. Like a great example is, and I think this is so important. People don't realize that crochet does not stretch, right? And so when people crochet sweaters, it's like it's not going to fit busty women. You need to figure out how to solve that problem.
Yeah.
Talk about where to put darts. Tell them where to measure. Like one of the biggest things I put in most of my garment patterns is I tell crocheters, because I know a lot of my audience is shaped. Everyone is shaped differently. And so I constantly put in like, hey, you need to measure the widest part on your body. For me, that's my belly. So maybe I would measure my belly instead of my bust, because there's another area that might be larger. Because the biggest problem is that if you, and this is about crochet patterns primarily, but knitting patterns as well, um, if you make a sweater just based on one measurement, it's just not going to fit. So how do you solve that? You tell them that this is where you need to choose. This is what you need to do, right?
Yeah.
And then you can even get scientific with it. I always talk about crochet has 5% stretch, where knitting has 10% stretch. What's that mean? You need to choose a better yarn for your knitting or your crochet socks. Like you just got to, and you got to measure properly and do all these kind of things. You just show people, show them. And if you're writing a pattern, tell them, you know.
I love that. Awesome. I'm going to take 1 second before we get to the community questions to just go through some of these comments here because I see some awesome. Marley Burt said, LOL, hashtag real truth with Rohn Strong.
That's right. That's right. I need my own show.
Michelle, Michelle said she loves this way of thinking about it. Awesome, Michelle. Let's see. Amanda says she loves the miracle mop.
Oh, it's the best, you guys. I have two. And the buckets that match.
Oh, geez. Marley said she was blushing when you're talking about her. Bab says way
Marley's.
more added value, much more prevalent in the crochet world. Heart-driven marketing. Yes, love it. Awesome. All right, well, it sounds like everyone's getting a lot of value from this. So I'm going to switch over to the community questions. We had a few submitted by members of the group.
Okay.
So first one is from Amanda, and she asked, what are some ways that you get customers to return after the first initial sale?
That's a hard one, especially in what we do. I think one of the best benefits are bounce backs, right? So bounce back is just a term that you can use. Whenever you walk into a store, like when you leave, sometimes you'll get coupons that, so you can come back, or you get put on their email list so you can come back and things like that. If you sell on Ravelry, there's a function where you can have like a little text that they'll get when they buy the pattern. And that's a great opportunity to say, here's a coupon code, or put it in your pattern, embed it at the end of your PDF with a link to your shop. Talk about your newsletter. and do that. Offer a service that no one else no one else offers. Like one-on-one consultations, or if you have a podcast, like that's a great way. I see so many people that have podcasts lately, and designers that have podcasts, they're not really doing it just because they want to talk, in my opinion. They're probably doing it because they want to sell. Like, it's a great way to show what you're doing. I mean, yarn dyers that have podcasts can show their own yarn, and then you want to go buy it because you think it's really cool, right?
Yeah.
But the biggest thing that you can do is just provide a great product. Provide a great product that that everyone's going to want, and they're going to want to come back for more. But just know that when it comes to like knitting patterns or crochet patterns, it takes people a long time, and the market is humongous. So most of your market is just going to be like one-offs. I have a really great group of loyal people that buy all of my patterns, and I don't know if they make them all, but you gotta, you have that, and then people want to support you. Once they know you, they want to support you. They want to say, I love what he or she is doing. Let me, help them. Even if they don't make it, they still buy the pattern, from you.
I love that.
So yeah.
Awesome. I think that's some really, really good advice. Next, we have a question from Jamie. Is it better to offer custom made to order items or ready to purchase or ready to ship items?
I guess it would. I've never really done that. I mean, like 8 years ago, I kind of did. I would say from a buyer's perspective. So let's talk about from a buyer's perspective. From a buyer's perspective, I want something now. I rarely will ask someone, like, I'll rarely order a commission. And the reason behind that is I'm not the type of person that wants to wait.
Most of us
It's
aren't.
excruciating. Yeah, like it's so excruciating to wait. I don't care if it's handmade. Like, I ordered handmade crochet hooks and Tunisian hooks that I had custom made for me. And it's been 3 weeks and I don't have them. And I am like dying to email and be like, hey, where they are, even though they told me it's going to be 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not that kind of customer. So I think you have to look at your customers that you've had or the customers that you're hoping to have and wonder where you are. Know that commission style customers are a different kind of status than ready to order. They have more expendable money. Basically, they can spend a lot more because commissions are essentially couture. So I learned, who was it? It was Michelle Costa from Stitch and Hustle in 144 Stitches. So Michelle and I were talking, and I was asking her, I was like, I don't know what commission versus like ready to wear versus like samples are. What are the difference? And the one thing that she taught me was that commissions are couture. Like, that's what it is. So you need to charge a lot more for commissions than you do ready. So maybe that's what you do. And then you'll have the people kind of figure out what they want. If you're just starting out, I would probably recommend ready to wear and just offer commissions on a case by case basis. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. Okay, so next we have another thing from Amanda. She said, what's one of the biggest sales boo-boos you've ever made?
Um,
Uh-oh, we've got him
I know
thinking.
I am, because I'm like, what have I done? I think I look back, and probably the biggest sales mistake that I made was not offering a product that was the best that it can be. Um, and that was just because I was learning at the time. And there's there's a lot that goes into writing a pattern, and there's a lot that goes into designing and all of that kind of stuff. But the most important part is to hire the best people to help you out. And you need a tech editor. Like, if you're designing patterns, you have to have a tech editor. You can't use testers and think that that's going to help you get by, because testers don't check that you use the same abbreviation for the word hook 150 times in your pattern. They're not going to follow the style guide. Like, they're not going to help you out. You need to, I never identified that I wasn't good at that. And throughout the years, I've really learned that I need really good tech editors, like really, really good. Um, and I've worked with so many tech editors, and I've had really great ones, and I've had really not so great ones that make me cry because I feel so stupid. And so when I was first starting out, I didn't know these things because I wasn't as educated as I needed to be. And I would design a pattern and I would just read it over one time and be like, it's fine. I'm sure it's fine. And I didn't realize like I people are people constantly, they don't realize that a $5 pattern is a big investment for some people. And more than that, it's the foundation of that customer's experience with you. And if they
Yeah.
buy a pattern from you and it's crappy, like they're just not going to go. I look back at the first patterns I ever published and I think, oh my goodness. And the problem was that I did that for a long time, and I stopped. I started working with tech editors, and I started really investing in my patterns, and that's such an important thing to do. Like that investment in who you are and what you're selling, um, it's super important. So that's my biggest mistake. I didn't know, like, the more you know, the better you do. And I just didn't do very well. And so those patterns are no longer available. And that sucks too, because like some of them are super cute and I can remake them, but I'm not about remaking patterns. Like that's just not my life. And so like I look back and I think, okay, well, I can't do anything about it now. Let me try to fix it moving forward. And the problem is, once you've moved that far forward, you don't even know what the heck you were trying to say. So what are you going to do? You're just like, it's fine. I'll just design something new that looks similar and hopefully that does well. So,
Well, thank you for sharing because I know sometimes it's
of course.
hard to share our mistakes. We've got a shout out to Emily, who is a tech editor here, and she says it's so hard to find your own mistakes. And I would
It
have to
is.
agree. Whether you're writing, just like writing copy, which I find that I make typos and like grammatical errors and things that I don't ever catch, even when I go back and proofread them. I'm like, how did I not see that?
Hmm.
But it's
Yeah.
your own stuff, so you kind of like your mind fills in the blanks and then you just like miss things. So
Yep.
yeah, I definitely think tech editor. Amanda says it's very frustrating when you buy a pattern and it's not very well written. Yes, that is very frustrating.
Very true.
Um, Rebecca says her biggest mistake was not being true to herself. So that is a good one, Rebecca. That's definitely, I think some of us can certainly relate to that. Um,
It is. Yep.
All right, so last question. This one is also from Amanda. She got a little question happy. I told her to ask a bunch of questions. Amanda says, "What is your least favorite thing about sales?" So we've talked a lot about, why you enjoy it and how you learned all that you know. But what is one aspect of sales that you just don't like?
I think it's probably just the work that goes into sales. It's it's such a it's such a hard, time consuming job to have, and we like to create, like that's what we want to do all the time, right? And sometimes we just don't want to do it. Like we don't want to. Sometimes I get up and if you go on my Instagram, you'll notice that like it's very perfectly curated and it's really pretty, right? There's a lot of work that goes into that. It's not easy to do that. And I get questions from people all the time and they're like, "Well, God, you take pictures every day. Like, how is your house always that pretty?" And I'm like, "It's not. That's like one day a month where I
It's
take
the
all of
magic
my."
of batch. Yeah, the
Yeah,
magic of.
right. And I don't want to be salesy in my posts, or I don't want to talk about what I'm doing. I had to have a photo shoot this last Saturday where like I'm doing stuff with my hands and I'm showing off products that I have and things like that. Like necessarily enjoy doing that. I hate doing that sometimes, but you have to. That's what you have to do. So some days you got to wake up and you just got to look at yourself in the face and say, okay, today's going to suck and I don't want to do this, but I have to. I hate blogging. I hate blogging. Like, it is the
I hate blogging
worst
too.
thing. It is the worst thing for me. I can sit here and talk to you for an hour and just rattle on about every subject. But the moment I have to sit down and write something, I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. I don't want to do this. I'm terrible at sending newsletters. I can't remember the last time. I have a great newsletter list and I never send it to people. Like, I don't like it. But I have to do it. And so that whole, like, the back end work is something I just abhor doing. So I've learned over the years how to do certain things. I'm just not good at stuff, so I hire people to do stuff for me. Because if you don't like it and if you're not good at it, then outsource it. And even if that's your mom or your cousin or your husband or your wife, like, have them help you, right? Like, we're going through a whole website redesign right now. I know nothing about website design. I know nothing about hosting. I thought, like, this is great. I can do this. So I was just like, my partner Harrison, you do it. Like, you handle everything,
This is yours
and
now.
I will pay you. Yes, I will pay you, and, like, this is what you need to do. I can't do this. And I gave him a deadline, and it's like, I can't. I have to be able to check out and free up mental space and then move forward and do something else. So, and Jessica said I struggle with pictures. I struggle too. I'm terrible at pictures. I'm terrible at pictures, Jessica. And I know that you said it a couple times. So I'm taking over this call, and Jess is. But, like, seriously, if you're not great at pictures and you can't afford a photographer to do it for you, there's a lot of great classes that you can take. Like, Craftsy has some classes on taking pictures with your phone, with your iPhone or your iPad. Download Visco. It's amazing. Visco is just, I use it for all of the editing on my photos, so they all look the same and they all look super pretty. And or you can get Photoshop. It's really inexpensive now. It's like 10 or 20 bucks a month, and you can learn to make yourself pretty, and that's what I do. So I got on the phone with my mother yesterday, and she was like, "Oh, your skin is just looking so good right now." And I'm like, "Mom, I just started a new skin regimen called Photoshop." And
Photoshop.
so it's great. That blending brush, let me tell you, it's wonderful. So yeah, if you're not good at something, figure out someone that can help you out with it. Take classes to figure out. Rising Tide Society is a great local. They're usually in most cities. I don't know if you live in a small town, you might have one, you might not. But Rising Tide Society is a group of entrepreneurs in your city that can help you out. There's photographers, there's web designers and graphic designers, and, like, you can be like, hey, can you help me? I can do something with you. For me, it's super weird because I'm like, here's a crochet pattern, but you don't crochet, so what can I do? But because I do copy editing and because I write newsletters and I do product development and stuff like that at Happily Hooked, I can, use that to make myself sound a little more well-rounded than I'm blaming yarn. So.
I love it. Well, I love that you are just so willing to jump in and help everyone, and that you totally just took Jessica's comment and went with it, because I think that's fantastic. I'm going to go through a few more of the comments that showed up. Amanda, I was just doing my job, lady. I know. And Amanda is one of those people that I hired because I needed help and it was not an area that I am good at. And Amanda does a fantastic job with the Facebook group. I give her a shout out in, like, every video because I just can't stand how awesome she is. She
Yeah.
shared your Instagram link to, let's see. Oh, Rebecca asked if you follow a planned calendar or if you decide daily.
So I have a very specific list. I actually have it behind me. So I am not one for planners, so I actually use, I don't know if you can tell, but it's a weekly thing, and it just kind of like flips up. So I plan out my week on Sunday night usually, or Monday morning, about stuff I have to do, the days off that I have, and I always start with like personal things that I know I have to do. Like this week, I fly out Sunday morning to go see my mom, so I know that I have to take Friday and Saturday off, so I'm not like freaking out. And today is a sewing day to finish the quilt and to finish a couple shirts, so I have some clothes to take with me. So that's kind of how I start, and then I'm like, okay, what do I need to get done this week, so that way I'm ready. So I design a year in advance. And that's crazy to think, and people think I'm like weird for doing it, but it's because if I don't, I am, I won't finish anything. So what I normally do is I pick yarns that have been around a really long time. So like Cascade 220. Right now I'm using Chistari, which is like this really cool small farm in Virginia, and some Lion Brand yarn and stuff like that. So I pick all the yarns that I want to use, and then I go, okay, so the designs that I'm going to release that are for pay, that will be released a year from now, here's what we're going to do. And I try to stay to that schedule. Um, and then I use my phone to set alarms for myself. So I have an alarm at 7:30 in the morning. So I wake up every day at 5:30. And I work mostly from 5:30 until I feel like I'm done and I've accomplished everything I need to. And I don't think about stitching time. So like crocheting time and knitting time doesn't go into my normal day, because I can do that while I'm watching TV. So I don't, it's still work and I still charge for it, but I can do it anytime that I sit down. But most of my days are spent writing patterns. Um, that's pretty much what I do. So I also keep a backlog of just written patterns. So I take sweater patterns that I've done before and I will rewrite them for different gauges. And I
Okay.
just have a entire collection of designs that are finished and patterns that are written. So that way when I have a new yarn, I'm like, oh, this will look cool in this. Let me go grab that pattern. It's already written. I can print it out and I can work from the pattern, testing it as I go, then send it out. If it needs charts and everything, I do that. But it's hard. It's really hard to juggle. And if you have a family, it gets even more difficult. So my biggest tip that I have found is that even on the days where I don't feel like doing anything, I choose five things that I can do that day, that I can finish and feel accomplished. And if I can finish those five things, then first of all, I have five things to be grateful for because I finished all of them. But I also have five things that give me a step forward towards my goal. Every month is about identifying the goals, identifying what I want to do, working really hard every day to accomplish them. But I also take time off. I think that's really important. Like, you can't work every day because you'll die and you'll hate it and you'll hate your job. And if you've been friends with me on Facebook for like more than a year, you'll know that like I hate crocheting sometimes because I burn myself out. And so I have to take time off. I have to. But I am a workaholic. I work constantly every single day, almost.
Most of us are, yeah.
I try to take, I know, I try to take at least one day off. Saturdays I usually take off, but that's because I'm out of the house. And I can't remember the last time that I've had a day in the house where I've not done anything, right? Where I've just like sat down and like watched something on television without crocheting or knitting. Like that hasn't happened in like years. So,
I don't know what to
um,
do if if I'm watching TV, like, and I don't have something in my, like, I
yeah,
don't know what to do with myself.
I'm either
Like,
I'm
what is
either on my
this?
phone or I'm crocheting something or I'm knitting
Yeah,
something. But
it's
yeah,
crazy.
and then I keep a running to-do list. So like right now I'm looking down at it, but I think it's 3 pages. Yeah, it's like 3 pages long. So like some of this, and I just look at it every day. So like today, I need to wind yarn, which is like the worst job in the world, and I hate it. So I put it off as far as I can. and I need to make step outs because I'm filming classes next week. And those are like the two things that I'll do today besides this, sending some emails and working out. Like those are the 5 things I'll do today. And then
I love
I
it.
will call it a day. Yeah.
Very simple. I love simple solutions to things. Um, Awesome. All right. Well, I think it's time to wrap it up. I think we got so many great. Amanda says she's getting so much great graphic material. She loves making graphics. It's one of the other reasons that she is fantastic at her job. And Amanda, I was kind of hoping that you were grabbing some of these tidbits. I actually made notes of a few. I'm like, turn that into a quote graphic.
Yeah.
So
They're the
you'll
best.
see your name all over our Instagram for the next few weeks, I'm sure.
Good. Good. I like that. I screenshot them and then use them for stories because I'm terrible at doing stories. So
Yeah. Nice. All right. Well, thank you so much, Ron, for joining us. I learned a lot. I hope everybody else here got their questions answered, had a little bit of fun, learned a little more about Ron. So thank you so much for joining us.
of course.
And we'll probably see you next month too, because you're doing next month's class. Wink, wink.
I am. I am. It's good.
Awesome.
It's on publishing. So yay.
Yay. All right, I'm
Yay.
super excited about that one, but I'm really glad we got to do this as well. So thank you everyone who joined us live. Stay tuned for the replay if you didn't get a chance to watch us live. Hello from the past or the future. I don't know, however this weird live thing works. All right, have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks, Ron. I'll see you soon.
You're welcome. Bye, guys.
Bye.